Okay, we're going to talk about gold and silver. And then I'm going to tell you which one's better. Yeah, I'm mostly kidding about that part. Here's a gold walking liberty so we can all just get along. So when I first started in on precious metals, I wasn't buying much gold, I was actually buying silver. And I started by building up a monster box of American silver eagles. That took me about 11 years. Seems like a long time, but I enjoyed it. But I stopped buying in early 2020. And then by August of that year, I had sold all of my silver down to about 60 ounces or so. And I think at my height, my peak silver, I probably had 580 ounces, something like that going into 2020. And of that remaining 60 ounces, I sold another 40 ounces of it on May 1st in 2021. So that was the date of the Silver Squeeze 2.0. So by May 2nd of 2021, the only silver that I had left was either given to me as a gift or it was something that I bought as a gift. Okay, so what's with the history here? I get the question of why I don't buy silver or what I think of silver. That comes up all the time. And I'll also get the question of what my motivation was for selling it down or for trading it. So I'm going to cover that part here. I'm going to cover the motivation side because the reasons would be different today. And you need to know that nothing I'm about to say here should be taken as me recommending that anyone do the same. Timing had a lot to do with my motivation, and I'm not exactly sure what I would do today if I had a bunch of silver right now. Because if there are big sell signals out there right now, like the kind that I was seeing in 2020, I'm not aware of them. And who knows, they might pop up again in the future, so that's what I'm going to stick to. I'm going to stick to any of those signs and any of my motivations at the time. Okay, so up to this point, nothing that I've said about silver should be taken negatively. I actually had a lot of fun with it. I get, though, that if you're into something, like I'm kind of into gold, somebody puts out a video telling you why they're not into the thing that you're into and they're maybe into something else, well, it's going to seem like that person, who is me in this case, doesn't agree with you. It's going to seem like maybe they're just plain wrong. But I'd say that if you're stacking silver, just hold on a minute because you and I probably agree on a lot more than we disagree on. So let's just start with that kind of common ground. I understand all the positives of silver. I stacked it up for more than a decade, but anything that I could rattle off as a positive isn't going to be new to anybody who's already buying it. I don't need to preach to the choir. I just happen to prefer a few other things for some very specific reasons, and I'm going to run through them here. Okay, so I started this channel off in February of 2020, and I was mostly talking about gold. I felt like it was going to take off based on the news of the virus. I think we need a little bit of that history. And I was mostly just giving information about buying gold coins, what to buy, how to buy, etc. But I was still buying 10-ounce bars. And one of my early videos, I actually mentioned that I do like them. And at the time, I think I mentioned the generic bars. I like the Sunshine bars as a low premium option for silver. But pretty much right after I made that video, premiums on all silver just kind of skyrocketed and I stopped buying. Well, I mentioned that in a few videos. I mentioned that premiums had just gotten way too high for me and I was out. And that just wasn't popular in the precious metals YouTube circle. A big surprise, but I didn't mind that pushback. I was never really irritated by any comments. Maybe there were a few, but I was mostly just irritated by the channels who were constantly pumping silver anytime there was anything that could be spun into a positive, whether that was real or imagined. And at that time, it was just kind of weird to be talking against silver. I'm sure there were other channels that had stopped buying silver in early 2020, but I didn't know of any. Everyone was talking about silver, and that's what was getting the views here. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying everybody was a pumper. There were definitely a few who were relatively realistic about it at the time, but most were continuing to buy it. Anyone that I knew of was buying silver at the time. And then, of course, there was just the very loud contingent talking about silver like it was going to the moon. So again, it was a little bit strange, so much so that anyone talking about selling silver at the time was clearly in the minority and clearly needed to shut their face hole. And that's just some good old-fashioned plot building, just kind of giving a little bit of background of what was happening at the time. Now, I don't feel like the silver conversation today is anything like it was in 2020. And actually, I'm not really sure why that is. It's either the pumpers have come down from their pedestals a little bit, and I know that there are definitely some that have not, or it's just that I'm not watching them anymore. Any random silver comment about price going to the moon or 1-to-1 ratio with gold is coming from a comment on a video at this point. I'm not seeing that so much in the videos, but again, I've cut back on what I'm watching. I think the more relevant difference between then and now is that at that time in 2020, silver was at an 8-year high. So a lot of the people who were cheering for silver had been buying prior to that run, so they had low average costs, and at the time, everyone had a reason to be excited about the prices going up. But if you bring that forward to now, to 2 years later, especially for the new buyers, average costs are a lot higher. If you've been buying at 8-year highs with 40% premiums, there's a really good chance that you're going to be upside down. And if this is you, I totally get it. Price runs make assets interesting. That's just how it is. Nobody could say it was a mistake to buy in on that run. The momentum was there, and nobody had any different information. Now, the reason that I stopped was because I was around for the run in 2011. So I saw that come back down, and 2020 felt really familiar, at least in terms of metals prices. So the first sign for me that it was time to get out of silver was that crazy premium hike. The second was really just a gut feeling. It felt a little like 2011, or I guess more like 2013, because it felt like the run was over. And I knew how easy it was going to be to sell because people were scrambling to buy it. So I was able to sell mine and what turned out to be the top in 2020. Now, the premium side of things, probably I could have done a lot better there, but I got a fair amount of premium back. And dealers were also happy to make silver to gold trades, but that meant giving up even more premium, so I only did that a couple times. The next motivation was really just a basic one. I wanted gold instead of silver. And it wasn't that I didn't like silver. I did. There are a lot of similarities to gold. I bought this from Empire Precious Metals, by the way. And I have a few more back here that Clean Money sent me. This is all fun stuff, but any positive that I feel strongly about with silver exists with gold. And in my opinion, gold is just the stronger of the two. So back in 2020, when I started trading silver for gold, it was just easy and I was able to feed that gold habit for free for a little while. But in August and I think a little bit in September of 2020, selling it outright was just so easy that I stopped trading it. I just sold it. And that brings me to cryptocurrency. Now, hear me out because this is important to the whole story of why I sold silver. Now, I felt like I was late to it, but Bitcoin and Ethereum were interesting to me most of the year. And then on August 12th, when the spot price of silver was about $26, Bitcoin was $11,550, Ethereum was $285. I sold most of my silver that I owned on that day. And I did it knowing that I wanted to make those purchases. And from that sale, about $10,000 went into Bitcoin and ETH. It was about $5,000 toward each, and then the rest went into just a little bit of gold. Now, I've never been able to simply say that I sold on August 12th and not have people tell me in the comments here just how dumb I am or how sorry I'll be, but Bitcoin went up 5x, ETH went up 10x by the time that I pulled out my first profits on them, so I'm not bragging, but that was a good decision. It has nothing to do with future hopes, future dreams, or opinions. It's just math. It's been proven out by historical fact. I was able to flip that silver that really hadn't grown much in value for 11 years and get an 800% gain in 6 months. Now, it was a risk at the time, and I was mostly going off instinct, but it worked out. So most of the questions that I get are about my motivations for selling silver. Maybe motivations for moving focus away from silver and into gold, but I actually already preferred gold by the time 2020 rolled around. I think probably a lot of people come into metals with silver, and then whether it's getting used to the price or any other reason, they start to move into gold. Now, personally, I felt it would have a stronger purpose in a currency devaluation. I thought it'd have a stronger potential against long-term inflation. And I didn't buy into some of the reasons that a lot of people give for buying silver. I didn't buy into that silver moonshot scenario. I didn't agree that we'd be using silver to barter, and I was realistic about how critical it is in manufacturing. If silver is mined as a byproduct, I felt that that alone was a big enough sign. So it's not that I don't like silver, I just like gold better. And you add to that the growing buzz on cryptocurrency in late 2020, I just thought there were better horses. And then my final motivation was probably just simple storage and portability. 580 ounces of silver weighs something like 40 pounds. The way that I stacked it, it was pretty organized. I really only had American Silver Eagles, a few Canadian Maple Leaves, and then I had those 10-ounce Sunshine bars. But even so, $15,000 in silver, that fills up an entire safe. I just prefer the idea of gold for storing value. That same $15,000 in value, that's a handful of gold. And I think that when I filled up that monster box, it kind of switched my thinking. So add all of that up, and that was my motivation for moving out of silver. Because I rarely talk about silver around here, I'm guessing that anyone watching this will probably already either prefer gold or they'll like both. I'm sure though, whatever title I give this video, it's gonna lure in some people to yell at me, but most will probably wonder why I don't buy both silver and gold. And the simple answer is just that silver's premiums haven't come back down yet. I thought for a little while they were just about to, and then they shot right back up. But if and when silver gets back below $20, premium included, I'll probably buy back in. Until then though, there's no reason that I would stack physical silver that isn't covered by stacking physical gold, except for the price point. If I wanted to keep my monthly metal budget below $200 or so, I'd be interested in silver, but because I'm buying more than that, I'm sticking to gold. As you can see here though, I have picked up a little bit here and there. I grabbed the RCM bar, actually 2 of them, and a few Silver Eagles on a dip. But everything else that I have was a gift, thanks again, Clean Money, or a novelty purchase, thank you, Stormy. Now, even if silver does not dip below $20 again, I'll probably still stack up to maybe 60 ounces or so just to have some. But from the investment angle, I just think there are a lot of other assets that I can do better on than I can do with silver. Now you get to form your own opinion there. I'm not here to argue with you. I actually do have some equity hedges in my stock portfolio that include silver ETFs, that include polymetallic miners. So if silver does take off someday, I'll definitely be cheering for it. All right, let's call it good there. I'm sure some of you have opinions on the topic. I'd love to hear about them, so let us know what you think. While you're there, hit the like button if you found any of this interesting. Make sure you're subscribed if you like the topic. And if you're still here, thanks again for watching. I always appreciate your time. Take care.